Biofriendly Podcast. It's the Biofriendly Podcast.
I'm wondering how this phenomenon occurred, that suddenly everything I say gets stuck inside of your ears.
They say once you've recorded more than 50 podcasts with someone, you get to hear their thoughts.
Really? Mm-hmm. So everything that I'm thinking goes into your head? Man, Jacob's got really great teeth. Or
What?
Or something.
Or something.
Or is it something else?
Or is it, man, let's eat pizza today for lunch.
The fullness of your beard is driving me wild.
Noel is so smart and funny, and I wish I could be as good as him.
Every time that Jacob looks at me, a part of me inside lights up with joy and happiness.
These are sweet thoughts.
If only you knew what I was really thinking to say.
I was like, this is all part of the gag, the real thoughts. Oh, boy.
I would never let Jacob sit on me with his butt. That's what I'm really
That's the
thinking.
real thought.
Yeah.
That's the real thought. It would be cool to hear somebody's thoughts for maybe like 5 minutes, and then I would want it to stop. Remember that movie?
Yes.
What women want.
And then what men want. They made
a sequel to that?
They reduced it.
You were kidding me. I did not know they did a redux.
They reduced.
They did a redux. What women want, redux.
Yeah, and it was what men want. So it was
who was the star of that?
It was a lady. It was a lady. I don't know who Hollywood people are. Who am I supposed to be?
Yeah, what am I?
We'll look it up. Call in. Tell us.
Call now.
I forgot.
Okay.
But
That's fair.
she's definitely talented and funny.
Yeah.
I just didn't watch the movie. I only saw the trailer.
Is Helen Hunt the lead in What Women Want? I feel like with Mel Gibson, I think.
That's right.
Yeah. So did they make the sequel about Helen Hunt?
No.
Okay.
It's a total reboot. It's
like direct to TV starring.
No, a movie.
Oh.
Yeah, real thing. Real movie. But I think that it was just like they took the same idea and then pretended like the first one never happened and did it again. I don't know that first, but I think that's kind of what it is.
Starring Dame Judi
They just flipped
Dench.
it.
What Men Want.
Exactly.
I would watch that, actually.
Yeah.
Jame Duty
Yeah.
Dench. Jame Duty Dench. Duty Dench.
Duty Jench.
That's going to be my new actor name. I am Dame Duty Dench.
You'd make a great dame.
Dame. I would make a great dame.
Yeah.
Dame looks like a lady. I'm feeling really silly today.
Are you?
Yeah, I don't know. I just feeling it's that slap happy.
I love slap happy Jacob.
Yeah, I'm feeling just.
Jacob.
Was that your?
No, my inner thought. Most thoughts said it.
Mm-hmm. There we go. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't know why. I think maybe as you get closer and closer to holiday festivities, I think that you start to think more about.
Well, you might be getting closer and closer to holiday festivities.
I'm not.
I'm
you're
not getting closer.
No.
I'm getting farther away from holiday festivities.
Yeah. How come?
Well, for me, time runs backwards.
What?
Yeah, I don't know if you guys know about this. This is why people often wonder, why is it that Noel keeps getting dumber as the show gets longer?
It's
Benjamin. Because I'm learning less and less as time goes on.
He's a mental Benjamin Button.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah,
Okay.
no, thank you. Yeah, because I've all of my stuff that when I was old, I had that data, and then it slowly gets less. As I get older, it gets less and less.
Great.
I'm reversing.
By episode 200, we'll finally be on the same page.
Oh, no. We bring different things.
That's true.
We bring different kinds of stuff.
Yeah,
to
my
the
wife
show.
was saying that this morning. She was saying she loves that because I was talking about what we were going to talk about today, and I was like, we'll probably be able to come at it from two different sides.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Absolutely,
that's what we
man.
do here.
Stop selling it on yourself short, guy.
You got it. You want to know what we're talking about today?
No. I mean, I do want to.
Thanks for tuning in, guys. Have a happy Thanksgiving.
I do want to know. I just don't know what I know.
Actually, this episode is airing on Thanksgiving. So
is it?
Yes.
Happy Thanksgiving,
Happy Thanksgiving, everybody who listens to the Biofriendly podcast.
This is being recorded to you from the past.
Yes. So we are hoping you have a wonderful, safe Thanksgiving. I know this is an unusual one this year, and we're hoping that you're able to spend some time with your loved ones that are with you, or maybe you can do a Zoom dinner.
If they're not with you because of restrictions, because apparently the whole country's on fire with COVID.
Yes, yes,
then,
of course.
Then I hope that you can still feel their love,
yes,
and their happiness, and that you're still eating a very warm, tasty meal.
Yes.
With your direct loved ones who are with you.
Absolutely. Right? Still fill your belly. Take a nap.
Take a nap.
And if you're not with your family and you miss arguing this year, I'm sure you could get on the internet and argue
Get
with
on
somebody.
the internet and argue. Go on Twitter.
It's guaranteed to happen within 5 minutes.
You can argue with somebody. We believe in you.
We believe in you.
We do.
Now, today for Thanksgiving, this is a Thanksgiving treat.
Yes, it is.
Well, we're going to talk about a subject that probably for a decade now I've seen in headlines and I've been like, interesting. What is that? I'm not going to take the time to learn what it is. But today I did.
All right.
I took the time to learn what it is. Today we're going to talk about fracking.
What says Thanksgiving
Like fracking.
like fracking? Great.
Yeah, we're going to talk about fracking.
This is a very highly misunderstood and contentious subject. I like it.
I agree, and a fan of the show had suggested it as as something we should do. So shout out to Mark Franzen.
Nice. Why would Mark Franzen want to know about fracking?
I think he just wanted to educate himself a little bit more. He had talked about it, and then he was like, "What? I want to know more." And he was like, "Who can I go to really fill my brain with education, to break it down and make it clear and understandable?"
I love it.
And he thought of the Biofriendly podcast.
That's
and so
sweet, Mark
right
Franzen.
after he said that, I said, "Why would you ever think that we would be the ones?"
Yeah, well, he's wrong, but that's really
He's
sweet.
way off.
That's really sweet. Well, that just tells you, ladies and gentlemen, if you're wondering whether or not you should join the Painless Green or call in or send emails or carrier pigeons or just write skywriting the clouds to us, we do listen.
Yes.
And we come back with episodes based on your needs and desires.
Yes, if you suggest an
join
idea, we will try to do it if it's within reason. Like if you're like, "Hey, do a episode on 80s band Bananarama," we'll do an episode on bananas.
Right.
Not Bananarama.
Not Bananarama.
Right.
Right.
But yeah.
Yeah, or we'll just go straight to nude beaches.
Yes, that's true. That's true.
Yeah.
There's got to be something environmental we could talk about
I'm
with that.
100% sure we could totally shoehorn that in.
And the tie into Bananarama with nude beaches is their hit was "Cruel Summer."
Hey, see,
Zing!
see, Jacob. Look at you. Just bring different. You bring a different aspect of intelligence. That's all it is.
I told you, slap happy.
You have a humor to you, friend.
Phil and slap happy.
Yeah.
You do too.
Yeah, I love it.
Yeah, we have fun. We have fun here on the Biofriendly podcast.
And we're gonna have fun talking about
fracking.
All right.
So just to give everybody kind of a bird's eye view about like what is fracking, it sounds like a profanity, but it's not. Most fracking wells, let's see. Oh, sorry. In simplified terms, the fracking process starts with a well that is drilled vertically or at an angle from the surface to a depth of 1 to 2 miles. The term fracking comes from hydraulic fracturing.
Yeah.
Yep, which I never knew that. Hydraulic fracturing, commonly called fracking, is a drilling technique. So basically, it's used to extract oil or natural gas from deep underground. So this is a relatively new industry. I mean, within the past,
it's blown up.
2 decades.
It's blown up in a new time, but it actually began like 60 years ago.
It did.
Yeah,
Okay,
it was the technology was discovered about 60 years ago, and there was some exploratory experimental work to make it happen. But they've certainly improved drilling, and they've certainly improved how they do it, and it got really popular. About 20 years ago.
Yeah, they call it a fracking boom. So though fracking is used worldwide to extract gas and oil, a fracking boom has occurred recently in the United States, partly driven by concerns over the costs associated with imported oil and other fossil fuels, as well as energy security.
Yep.
So it's basically we've discovered a lot. Like the interesting thing is a lot of politicians 10 years ago were like, "Hey, we're like the United States is like the Saudi Arabia of natural gas." Like they basically said that we have so much here that we need to tap into. Go ahead.
Yes.
That was in 2010.
No,
I don't know
totally.
if they were
right. We have a ton of it. We do have a ton of it, and it's absolutely everywhere down there.
Yeah. There's a place called.
I don't know if our energy reserves are even close to what Saudi Arabia has. Like if you,
so maybe it's an exaggeration.
Yeah, but I mean, hey, we can look it up. Let's fact check.
Well, it's called. So the areas where fracking is most profitable include the Great Plains from Canada, south into Texas. And then the Great Lakes region, and an area known as the Marcellus Shale, which reaches from central New York into Ohio and south to Virginia, according to the U.S. Energy Information Administration.
Yeah.
So the Marcellus Shale region is particularly attractive to gas drillers because it's a rich supply of natural gas, and some call it the Saudi Arabia of natural gas. That's where I got it. Or Frackistan.
Frackistan. Are you kidding me?
No, I'm not kidding. So that's when the nickname that's been given to Frackistan.
Oh, Americans are the worst.
So I've read, we really are. I've read some stuff, but what I'm anxious to see is that this is a hot button topic.
Yeah.
It causes a lot of debate. And if we play our cards right, Noel, we could get flagged.
What? We could get flagged in this one?
We could get a flag on this one.
We'll definitely get flagged when I'm done with it.
Okay, good. Yeah. because this causes arguments. There's some debates about it. So why don't you tell us a little bit about your insight and
on fracking?
On fracking, yes.
Okay, so there are definitely problems with it.
Yes.
There's definitely issues that are involved with fracking. But I think that my thing with fracking is the same as almost everything else, is where people are worried about and freaking out about the wrong things.
Right.
Okay?
Yeah.
So like typically you'd say that people are freaking out about fracking because of all of the methane that comes out of the wells, and you'll have these different leak points or the water that's produced from it, right?
Yeah.
So okay, let's drill down a little more into
like you frack. We're going to drill down horizontally.
We're going to drill down.
Please.
Yeah,
please.
So first, like fracking, yes, the horizontally, but first you go down.
You go down, and then you go
down
across.
really deep. And here's where there's some misunderstandings on fracking.
Okay.
I think people think that if you drill a hole into the ground and you start causing fractures in the shale down there, that you are going to you're going to poison the groundwater that's underneath there with gas and with hazardous fluids and additives and things like that. So that's not a good argument. It's not there are good arguments, but in my opinion, that's not. So I'll break it down. So you drill down past the aquifer. Okay. You drill below the water. Yeah. You drill below like a ton of rock and coal and even layers of shale and sandstone. Like you go down deep. Sure. Deep. For most, like certainly with Marcellus, you go deep. There are some natural gas reserves that are closer to the surface. Okay. And in some of those, they have had problems actually where it's gotten into the water.
I found a few cases where there were some groundwater issues.
Yes. And there's ways that they've, certainly earlier on, there's ways that they now defend against that. One is you have to drill deeper now. Yeah. And so Marcellus is a great example of a really deep reserve. So if you're in New York and you're worried about I'm going to get my water's going to be, that's unlikely from that part of the fracking. Right. There's other ways that your water could get contaminated, which I'll get into later. Okay. But so you drill down. Okay. You go deep. Once you're about, depending on where you think the gas is, about a mile or 2 miles down, somewhere in that range, you then turn the drill and you start going horizontally. Okay. Right. And then you go about a mile that way. Yeah. Okay? Yeah, that's what it was saying. Yeah. And then once you're there, that's kind of crazy. So they'll send down like a little, I don't know. It's like if you call it like a mace or a caterpillar. It's like a little guy who's got these little spikes all the way around. Okay, cool. Right? That sounds. And you send it down there, like and then you set and it shoots out these 1-inch spikes. So like pops them out and goes pow into the shale. Right. Okay. And then that makes these little fractures, and then they pull that out, and then they send down like pressurized water with 9,000 pounds of pressure. Yes. With water and then these additives that make it really kind of thick and gooey and help to kind of lubricate things and really get in there and explode stuff. And they also put sand in it so that the sand can help keep these holes that they're creating, these cracks, open. Yeah. Okay. And they send that down there and they shoot it down at high speed, high pressure, and then boom, and they make just these giant fractures all over in the shale down there, right? Yeah. And then that releases gas and oil and all sorts of fun stuff that they then pull out and then they use to get you going. Yeah, get the energies. So the issues then, that is deep. That is that is really far away from well water. Below where the water is. Yeah. So you don't really get the problem there necessarily. Also what they do, because as you're pulling it up, you potentially have a problem that you're going to get stuff into the water as it's coming up because you damage the ground when you're drilling. Right. So what they do is they make a cement seal, like a concrete seal, like not the entire way down, but almost the whole way down around the entire pipe as they're going in order to keep from having that escape, so that that essentially protects the groundwater, and that's how you do it. Now, there are stats that say like 3 to 5% of the wells, particularly in the past, had issues with their sealing. They didn't do a good job of sealing in the pipes. And when that happens, you can contaminate things. You can cause problems that way.
Can be a problem. Yeah.
So that has been an issue, and there's been some cases where people have gotten a lot of money because their water's been screwed up by that. There's less of that now, again, because the oil companies don't like being sued. They don't like losing money, and so they do eventually figure out that we should do a better job of this, and they are getting better at it. But there are other problems. So once you've got that water down there, you need to get it out.
Yeah.
So they suck out the water that's not kind of still in amongst the cracks and everything they've created down there. They pull that out, and they've got this water that's got like all sorts of crazy contaminants, including like cyanide. Some of it's even radioactive. Though we've talked a little bit about nuclear energy and how radioactive things have to be in order to be really dangerous, and these are not that big of a deal. They're not as so long as they're responsible with it, they're not going to put enough of it together to cause a problem.
Okay.
Which they're supposed to be.
Right.
Sometimes lazy people doing their job screw up, and that's where you get issues with fracking that drive people insane. Also,
stop being lazy.
They'll dig out these holes basically in the ground, and then they'll seal those holes, and then they'll put the contaminated water in the holes that are kind of on site, and then cover that, and then labeled as hazardous, and then that's where they'll put that. That has caused a ton of problems in the past when they've done that poorly.
Right.
Because if you do that poorly, then you've got just, it's not water anymore. At this point, it's just hazardous soup, right?
Yeah.
That they're stored there, right? That they're disposing of on site, supposedly cleanly. Well, usually cleanly. Honestly, they now do a better job of holding it. But that has also gotten into groundwater and caused problems for people as well. So these are kind of the kind of dangers that you see.
These are the issues that are talked
about. They know
about
them, and they're regulated against. Now they're like these are the kinds of things that are regulated, against, and that you have to do things in order to. The EPA monitors it, keeps an eye on it, and makes sure that they're not ruining your lives. And that's why a lot of people in Pennsylvania are very pro fracking, because it's had some positives, right?
Right.
So so kind of beyond that, the reason that people are doing it is because, if we are in fact the Saudi Arabia of natural gas, then that's money.
Right.
So North Dakota went from a state that nobody ever visited, unless they, there were very few people there.
Not a lot of people going to North Dakota.
The economy wasn't big. Now it's like that place has crazy surpluses, and everybody's flying there to get a job because there's so much money coming out of North Dakota because of fracking, right? And the economy, and like you're saying, and from Ohio all the way up to New York, it's there's money there now because you can now produce natural gas that we can use here for our energy.
Right.
Also, and we've talked about this a little bit before, in order for us to have sustainable renewable energy, we need a backup. Because we still don't have good enough. You still don't have windmills that'll go at all hours when the wind's not blowing. You still don't have solar panels that work at night.
Right.
Which means that you either have better storage, which takes up space, and we don't have yet, or when they're off, you turn on a natural gas plant.
Right.
And that's how we keep our emissions levels down, right? Because natural gas is, when you're burning it, pollutes less. It's like 90% less carbon monoxide, and like 50% less CO2, and it creates more particulate matter. So that's a problem. Yeah. But in general, it's a lot cleaner, right? So it's sort of a nice step up, certainly from coal, and it's a nice thing to turn on when you just need power right away that people use. So it's actually one of the reasons that you'll hear, like Trump as an example, say that we're way better now than we were however many years ago, and not all of his stats are accurate, by the way, when he says that, but some of it is, right? We are actually we're polluting way less than we used to.
Than with oil.
And that's because of natural gas, because we're using more of that, because our energy is more dependent on that than it used to be. Yeah. So these are all kind of positive things that come from fracking, because you can get a lot of natural gas when you frack.
Right.
So like that's kind of a long list of good positives. So the negatives, which we've kind of talked about. Oh, sorry. Actually, we'll keep going on that. The water waste, right?
I love it. I love watching him work. Love it. This is one of those ones where I can just sit back and sip my coffee, just let him go, just wind him up, let him frack away.
I feel like I'm being boring.
No, you're not.
So like and my brother knows more about most of my knowledge on fracking comes from listening to my brother drone on and on about honestly, because
you drone on, Mike.
You drone, Michael. No, Michael, my brother's a genius.
Very, very smart.
He's
very
wonderful,
smart
and he's well spoken, and I actually like listening to him about these things. Otherwise, I wouldn't
be
listening
him.
and be able to repeat a lot of it.
Right.
But he's Mike just has a lot of he's got a lot of experience in the oil industry and understands it, and is also an environmentalist. So he's got a neat perspective on a lot of this stuff.
Sure, which we need more of that.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we need more of that. Yeah.
But anyways, So the wastewater that has been a problem in the past, they're now recycling that.
Yeah.
So what they've kind of realized is that like some of this water can be used to do it on the next well and on the next well. So 30% of it's lost. It goes underground.
I saw that same fact as I read. It said, one of the problems is there was a lot of water wasted in the process. 30%. I saw the same thing. Right. Yeah.
So okay. Again, and I'm starting off sounding very pro fracking, so and I know that's and I'm actually not totally against it at all. I think that there's positives to it, but there are reasons why I'm also not totally pro fracking.
Right.
So I'll get into those later, but water waste isn't really one of them because
they figured that out.
Well, so you got to think about other industries that have disappeared, right? Like steel industry's kind of gone away. They used to use more water than that in the steel industry, right? Yeah. They need to use water. I mean, they need to use water just in industrial processes everywhere. And for a lot of these places, like the economy left, jobs were gone, and natural gas kind of took their place and uses equivalent or less water in a lot of cases. Like a good example of what we use for fracking, like in the entire fracking process that happens in Pennsylvania uses about the same amount of water per day as the city of Pittsburgh. Okay. So that's a lot of water, right? Yeah. But if you think about it, the amount of water that you use in Pennsylvania every day, I think I read somewhere was like 10 like nearly 10 billion gallons a day.
Wow.
A lot.
Yeah.
Right?
A lot of water.
And fracking, it's a lot. It's all, I think, like 2 million.
Yeah.
Right? But 2 million versus 10 billion is a significantly different, not that it's pretty small. It's tiny. Like it's actually, you can manage it. Like it's enough. It's not wasting water that cannot be evaporated and replaced by, our natural
process,
closed loop that we live here on Earth. Right.
Right.
So it's not, it's an argument, but it's not a great one.
Okay.
And the 30% that's left underground, I mean, that's it's gone down there, but it'll
find its way back up.
Nature's beautiful.
Nature finds a way, as Jeff
Nature's
Goldblum
perfect.
says.
Look at eggs.
Yes, nature's perfect. Yes.
It's down there at those pressures, it'll turn into something else. And, But beep ba boop. Where was I?
We were talking about
water.
Water.
Yeah. So that's gone, but the rest of it, they're finding ways to use that, and to instead of just having to store it as hazardous waste, they're starting to recycle it on the next wells to use the same water.
Right.
Which is a really good idea because then you're not wasting that water, and also you're not having to dispose of hazardous waste that includes radioactive materials. And cyanide. So that's kind of a positive thing to look at. So I think that with fracking though, you do have some kind of negatives. I mean, my big thing that I kind of argue against it is that you are still drilling into the ground. You are still creating some emissions by just the drilling process. There's a lot of methane that comes out when that's done. That leaks into the sky. Yeah. Whenever you're transporting the natural gas, they can't cap it all, so you're getting all that into the sky. And that methane's a pretty awful greenhouse gas.
Yeah.
Okay. So
cow farts.
Right. So exactly. Let's kill all the cows and eat them. That's what do we say here?
That's what we say. Yeah.
But it's it's something that when people say natural gas is totally clean, well, that's something that isn't. People never factor in the industrial aspect of it.
Yeah. So gathering it.
It's the same problem with batteries.
With batteries on electric cars.
Yeah. Like you in order to do that, you're not using clean equipment. We're using diesel equipment that's producing emissions, and the whole process is industrial, and it pollutes.
Yeah.
Right. And so the just having this stuff is difficult because they admit that they lose about 3% of of the gas just through processes, and there's studies that show it's as high as 8. Right. So that's quite a bit of pollution. It does add up to something. Yeah. And I've seen studies that show that it's like where you think that you're getting like 50% bonus on your carbon dioxide, it's actually probably closer to 75% because of that, on your greenhouse gases. Excuse me. Yeah. So there's downsides in that regard, but also the fact that we've decided now that we're the Saudi Arabia, I guess, of
it was deemed so that we are Frackistan.
That we're Frackistan, that we're the Saudi Arabia of natural gas means that we're now going to lean into natural gas. Yeah. Okay, so we're still that takes away from greener options that are better for the environment. Right. I don't mind it as a stepping stone to get us there.
As a transitional thing.
Sure. Like I think as a transitional thing, it's great. I think for heating, it's way better than heating oil. Right. Which is just awful. Right. And you can plug it in almost right away. Right. So that's a real. I mean, there's definitely ways that it's better and ways that we should use it and have it. But if our plan is that we're going to have a bunch of windmills and solar panels and then back them up with natural gas, then I think that's not going to be sustainable either. We're going to find ourselves complaining about that problem in another 20 years that, we thought we'd fix this problem, and we haven't. Yeah. So I think that it's better, it's a step better, but we're just going to use more and more energy. We're not going to use less energy. Yeah. Right? So yeah. And the more energy we use, the cleaner the energy has to be. Right, right. So I think that
it's just not a long-term
I don't think
solution.
So, but I think that we look at it because of how economically wonderful it is right now for everybody as this terrific solution. We're going to be rich. We're energy independent for 120 years or something is the amount of gas they think we have. Yeah. And then since if this isn't enough, we can always drill in other places. So let's go ahead and dig into Alaska. Let's get as much natural gas in as many places as we can. And do we really want to start tearing up our planet with that? And I don't. I want to
preserve things.
Yes, I'm in favor of using the land we're already using and to try to be more efficient with it. Right. Which is why I'm a proponent of nuclear power, which people think I'm crazy for, but I don't. I think that if nuclear power is green. And it doesn't require any drilling or fracking or anything.
And if our audience, we did an episode, I don't know what number it is, a couple back, about nuclear. If you didn't catch it, it is an interesting episode to look at it and kind of our ideas of it. And fracking, I appreciated everything that you kind of shared with us about, the pros, the cons, the perspective. And I think I can get that it's not the long term, but it's still important to look at. But like I found, most wilderness organizations, wildlife organizations, of course, they are opposed to coming in and drilling in those spaces or causing any more harm. And my experience of fracking, which I equated it to earthquakes, and I mainly did that.
I didn't even talk about earthquakes.
So I wanted to tee you up so you could share, because as most listeners of the show know, I'm from Oklahoma originally, and sometime back in 2010, 2011, all of a sudden...
You started suddenly having earthquakes.
Well, I wasn't living there, but friends of mine would say, they would go on Facebook and they would write, earthquake, and here I am. I've lived in California for almost 20 years. I've lived through earthquakes out here. But being born and raised in Oklahoma, I never was in an earthquake in my entire life. So I'm sitting here and I'm watching friends and family and posting and being like, another earthquake here in Oklahoma. And I'm going, why... all of a sudden are there quakes in my home state that I never experienced? And it was somebody who said, it's all the fracking. Right. And I was like, oh.
We don't quite realize what we're doing down there.
Exactly.
Right?
So that's the reason why it should give us pause to not be like, it's all fracking all the time, is that there's some stuff happening under the Earth's surface that you go, we could be causing some serious damage if we do this too much.
Well, yeah. So it's the Earth crust, right? It's a crust, right? So it's
and you're going across it for a mile.
It's made up of rocks, and and then you're fracturing. You're making fissions all over the place. So you're loosening it up. You're literally trying to shake it up, so that you can get stuff out. Man, right? Yeah. So I mean, getting down into there and messing around with things and shaking things up and cracking things, it changes how much pressure is held in this spot, or how much tension there is over here, or how much space exists, or what has been taken out of there that then makes a hole. So an interesting example is in Long Beach, right? The beach is lower.
It's a long beach.
It's a long beach, and it's now lower.
It is.
Because they pump all the oil out of it. Like oil used to buoy some of it up.
Really?
And you take it out and it goes down.
I did not know that.
Yes.
So the entire city used to be a little bit higher.
A little bit higher. Yeah.
Wow.
Not a lot, but a little bit.
Yeah, a little bit.
So it's when you take something, that's physics.
Yeah.
Right? That's like you take something away and then
it
will move. Things will
something.
adjust. Right?
Yeah.
So that's like with fracking. It's I mean, ever since they've started fracking, you're finding earthquakes in places where they never had earthquakes.
Right.
And they go, well, obviously this does something to destabilize fault lines.
Yeah.
So it's something to think about.
Yeah.
Because you don't, like in Oklahoma, you're not building homes like you do in California. In California, everything is built to shake. It's like some of these skyscrapers can stand. My brother again, in his long life of many things that he's done, he used to build skyscrapers.
What?
Yeah.
Mike, seriously?
I know.
Wow. I used to work at Petco. That's all I got.
Yeah. But think of the things you know about pets that you didn't before.
Ferrets.
Yeah.
Not in California because ferrets are illegal in California. But the Petco I worked at in Illinois when I was in college. This was when I was in college, guys. It wasn't before I was here. But yeah, they had ferrets. And so ferrets, I learned that they stink. Anyway, that's a tangent.
Yeah. But you also were a professional comic.
And a professional stand-up comedian.
Have written TV shows and screenplays. And award-winning
very prolific
articles.
career.
And I mean, so it's not like you haven't lived a life. Right?
That's true.
We've all done different things.
Yes.
So stop.
You're right.
Stop beating up on Jacob. He's my friend.
I worked at Petco. I worked in a nuclear faculty. I worked as a puppeteer in the mall. And I worked at a giant indoor freezer that was -40 for an ice cream company where I had to wear a snowsuit.
Wow.
I've had some cool jobs.
You've had some life. I've
had some life. Back to Mike.
So Mike used to build skyscrapers, right? And so like he would talk about the way that they would the things they would have to do to build these things so that they would survive an earthquake.
Yeah.
And the tallest at the time, was the First Interstate building. Now it's the Bank One, I think, building. But the one that in downtown.
Downtown,
LA,
yeah.
I think. Don't quote me on this, and Michael probably yell at me and say I've got this wrong. But I think that thing can survive like an 8.9
Like
earthquake.
pretty dramatic.
Like you could shake it 8.9, and it would be like, yep, we're good.
Yeah, I've experienced it firsthand, and I'll get back to the building, the structures, but I've experienced it firsthand. One of my previous jobs was at NBC Universal, and if you are in the Valley, there is the NBCU Tower, the 10 Universal City Plaza, and I went through an earthquake in that building, and I felt a sway back and forth, and somebody told me, they were like, this building is on rollers.
Yeah.
And I was like, wait, what? And they were like, well, they figured out that if they build these skyscrapers and there was no give, then they would just crumble.
Right.
You know, you introduce that shock of a quake underneath, and they'll just fall apart. But all these brilliant minds came together and realized that if the building can rock, if it can rock and roll back and forth a little bit, then it will sustain the shock of that wave, and it won't fall apart. And that is probably what they did when they built it. They figured out a way to make these towers just go, hey, we're just rocking and rolling here.
Hey, Lady Towers.
But in Oklahoma, they don't do that.
Tower. I'm sorry. Halfway through a joke.
I'm so sorry. You had this nice pause in your thing, so I was like, oh yeah, but it was like, oh, he's still in the groovy building mode.
In the groovy building
Get
mode.
back to groovy building mode.
Hey, I'm a groovy building. Hey, I'm a groovy. I'm not gonna tell you what I'm all about, but I like being groovy, and I don't know. I've lost right now. I'm trying to be all sexy.
Okay.
I've
I wanted you to have a chance to get there.
Here's the thing. I wanted to say, hey, ladies, and be like the groovy 70s, ladies. But then I'm like, but the modern age, I mean, maybe
you can't do that anymore.
Like,
buildings are like, hey, I respect you.
Guys. Maybe it's a lady who's grooving.
Maybe it is.
So she can be, hey, gentlemen.
Maybe buildings in the modern age are women.
Or women.
And they want to shake it.
I mean, ships are women, right? They always say the ship is a she.
So, guys, you should understand that it's possible that those...
You've been supplanted, potentially.
These downtown skylines
honestly,
are ladies.
It could be a they.
Yes.
Like, I can't, at this, I don't know what buildings are anymore.
Look...
I used to know what a building was. Now I don't.
At the end of the day, whatever your downtown skyline consists of, I support it.
I agree with that statement.
Back to
I agree with that statement.
earthquakes. So in Oklahoma.
That was Biofriendly Podcast 101 right there. I mean, we just went on such a tangent.
That was such bizarre, absurd, tangential nonsense that I loved it. No, but I was going to say, Oklahoma isn't prepared for the structures.
You shake Oklahoma and it just falls down.
We just all fall apart.
Because because they're worried about tornadoes.
Yes.
They're worried
So they built them very stiff, very stiff buildings because they're like, we have to face this twister coming our way. And then they're like, wait, earthquakes? What?
It's like, how do we build a stiff and
wobbly building,
undestroyable building that can also wobble and dance? And I think that people are going to move out of Oklahoma.
Yeah, probably.
Because of this problem.
I did. For other reasons.
No, I'm just kidding. Maybe they won't. Science, man.
There's lovely parts of that state.
I love Oklahoma.
Yeah, it's where I grew up is now Indian reservation land. Which is
so exciting.
So cool. I can't remember if we talked about that on here before, but
probably.
But
when you get to podcast number 91.
91.
You don't know what you've been talking about.
I know.
I have no idea. Plus, it's good to recap because you get listeners coming in anew.
Yes, that's true. Because not everybody's going to go back and check out the previous 90.
We found out that you're now a resident of. You were born Creek, actually.
No, Cherokee.
Cherokee. No. I mean, but in Tulsa.
Tulsa is Creek.
Isn't it Creek?
I think so. Yeah. Yes, I believe so.
Creek Nation.
I was born on an Indian reservation.
Yeah.
And I am.
You thought it was Tulsa.
Yeah, I thought it was Tulsa, but apparently it's not. And and for what it's worth, I'm 1/16 Cherokee Indian. But I mean, I know. We all learned our lesson with Elizabeth Warren that you can't walk around and say I'm part Cherokee if you literally have not participated in the tribe at all your entire life, and you just have
Thankfully,
a little smidge.
You have.
Yes, I do have a card.
Yeah.
That says I am part of the Cherokee Nation.
I mean,
so, yes, and I tried to learn Cherokee once upon a time.
You're making an effort.
I did make an effort. I tried to learn the language. It was very hard. Yeah. If you have nobody to practice Cherokee with, you're not going to learn Cherokee. So, but fracking,
fracking. Yeah, so no, there's a bunch of there are a bunch of issues with it, and there's a bunch of reasons why. I think I support it. My position, and I'm not going to say this is a biofriendly position because
this is Noel's position.
I don't know. This is my position.
The official stance of the show
is that the official stance of the show. We don't know.
We don't know.
Jacob and I will decide.
We'll decide and then tell you at a later date.
Yeah, at a later date. Come back for the second fracking
part 2
podcast
of What the Frack.
Now we'll call it the biofriendly position. I'm going to go for it. I'm going to assume that you're going to be cool with this, and if not, then we'll argue it on site.
Okay.
All right. That we are pro fracking in the near term because it creates cleaner energy than we had previously.
Okay.
And because it solves some problems that allow us to ramp up technological innovation for solar panels and windmills, which we're okay with in certain circumstances.
No,
he's against it. But
no, I can agree that if there's anything that we've learned over the past 2 years doing this show specifically, it's that transition is a huge part of this.
It is.
It's a big part. And there's a lot of people out there that want to say it's one way or the other. And we have to completely change. But infrastructures are in place. Jobs exist. We have people to think about. Just last week, we talked to Rob Keenan of Bottled Water, and he shared that story about a store owner who was kind of bridled by the constraints of having to offer plastic bottles. And so if there's anything I've learned, it's that you have to consider that transition is just as important as to the end goal.
Well, because you need agreement. If you don't get agreement from people, it will never happen. It won't happen because you'll be fighting the whole way. So the only way that you can get this to go along is you can't, like, people think you can force this. You can't force it because a person is not going to give up what keeps their children alive, what keeps food on the table, what keeps them today and tomorrow existing.
Right.
People survive at all costs. Yeah. And they'll fight to the death to survive.
Yes. People in North Dakota right now are feeling the benefits of this jobs, security, employment.
Yeah.
And so you go to those people and you say, you have to stop it immediately and it's bad for the environment. We can't do it anymore.
But even beyond that, do you like using your phone?
Yeah, I do.
Okay, I think most people do like using their phone.
Right.
I think that most people have organized their businesses around their phones and everything, right?
Yeah, it's true.
If you don't have people in North Dakota pumping out natural gas, you may as well turn it off.
Yeah.
Because we have already converted ourselves into a natural gas economy. That transition has basically happened. It's not totally done, but it's basically happened. So with that happening, if we decide we're not going to do this anymore, then don't bother using your phone because you won't have any electricity. You won't have any power. Right? And so that changes everybody's life. We're dependent on it. Like we no longer can survive the way we did even 20 years ago. You know? So it's locally, what does it do for the people in North Dakota and everywhere else? But I mean, just what does it do for you in LA? Without the natural gas, you're not going to live on solar panels, right? It will not work.
Right.
It won't, with the system, it doesn't exist. It won't work.
So we have to get there somehow.
Yes.
And we've got to get there on a system that's better than the one before.
Exactly.
And that's the official stance of the Biofriendly podcast.
Yeah, that's how we feel about fracking. Yeah, that's it.
Because we got to get there somehow. Yeah. And you know what? I challenge you, if you've got a way to get energy and resources that's better, please call now.
Call now,
because we will accept.
Well, look, I said, if we were willing to invest in a nuclear, like we're shutting down perfectly good nuclear power plants, because we've decided that they're going to kill us all as a nuclear bomb, and they're not, and they're not.
They're not.
But that's the powers that be are going to do what they're going to do. You know, you can fight that all you want, and I do. But there's
fight the man.
But at the same time, you do have to look at what has happened, where we are, and be realistic about things.
Yeah.
And realistically, we are the Saudi Arabia of natural gas. We've considered that's it.
We are Frackistan, baby.
That's it. So if that's where we are, then we have to transition from here. We can't just turn it off, and we can't just say that we're all going to die. Stop fracking.
Yeah,
it won't work.
Yeah,
it won't work. But I do agree that we should transition out of it to something better.
And not frack in places where it's like, these are the last black rhino that exist. You know, like, please don't frack there.
I don't, exactly. Improve efficiency, do it better. Do it where you're doing it. But I mean, look, you and I are both pretty heavy on conservation and on keeping as much of the diverse species on this planet alive as we possibly can.
Yeah.
Right? Because we invade too much space. We overdo it. And that's something that even with our current renewable plan, we're going to do more of.
Yeah.
And so that's a concern, and natural gas is part of that concern, and fracking is the reason.
Yeah.
So,
well said, man. We did it.
I think we just solved. Did we solve it?
We solved it, and you guys can all rest easy because it's not going to be a problem.
And anymore. I hope that helps. I hope that helps Mark with it's Mark that we're helping, right?
Yeah, it's Mark. And I hope that everybody leaves today learning a little bit more about what fracking is, and I hope also the next time you look at a building, you don't define it.
Don't define that building.
You let that building tell you who it is.
If that building says it's an it, then it's an it.
That's it.
If that building says it's a she, it's a she.
It's a she. Whatever you think, whatever that building wants to be, it can be.
It can be.
Remember that. Mm-hmm. This has been the Biofriendly Podcast, your beacon of light in a gloomy environment.
Featuring greater parasympathetic nerve activity.
More than just charismatic megafauna.
Dolphins don't quit.
Nature is perfect. Look at eggs.
We are y'all inclusive.
Don't mess with Smokey on this show.
Something about boats.
No, it's the boat one.
The boat one.
But you skipped over. Can't win them all. But we'll win the rest. And then you finish off with...
And then I say the boat one.
The boat one.
Okay, so don't even listen to anything we said because we can't even do our... Everything we said from the beginning to end is false because we can't even do our tag.
Oh, no. We love you guys. We love that you have kept up with us for yet another year. As 2020 draws closer and closer to a close, it is Thanksgiving, and pretty soon this year is done. So this is another year on the books for the Biofriendly Podcast. So isn't that exciting?
Wow.
We're about to head into year 3.
Year 3?
Epic.
My gosh. Hey, I want to say, I'm not actually not. We sounded a little bit like we were being facetious or whatever about the buildings thing, but honestly, I really don't care what something causes.
Oh, no. I mean, I think, please get our humor that we are being silly about buildings, but we really don't care and support whatever your choices may be.
Don't care. Yeah.
Don't care. We're relaxed and groovy, just like buildings are when they sway.
Relaxed and groovy, like swaying buildings.
We're relaxed. That's a tag.
We gotta write it down.
I gotta write it down. We're gonna forget it. So relaxed and groovy, like swaying buildings. I love it. Yeah. See you next time, guys. Bye.
Biofriendly podcast. It's the Biofriendly podcast.